What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Glory Boys podcast. That's a new intro song.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah, it's sick. I'm one of your hosts, Darren.
And I'm Austin.
And I'm Darren. I mean, Austin.
And I'm also Darren.
He's Darren and I'm Darren. What's up, Glory Gang? We are super excited to see you today. You're just so beautiful and we love you so much.
Yeah.
You're the best.
You're the best.
And thank you for listening to our podcast. Speaking of listening to our podcast, we would love it. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the bell for notifications so that you're notified every single time that we drop a piece of content, which we drop podcasts weekly. We drop all kinds of other different content throughout the week. So be sure to hit the bell, subscribe if you're not already. And if you're listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you consume this information, we would love it if you left us a rating because we love reading them. They keep us going. It puts the fuel in the gas tank to keep us trucking along to bring you the best content that we possibly can. So we love you. Thank you so much for your support.
Yeah, we love you guys, and we can't wait to get into this week's episode all about how to manage your growing business.
Ooh.
But before we do that, Darren, I have a question for you.
You do?
What is the worst job that you've ever had?
The worst job I've ever had? Oh, man. I started working when I was like 14 because I grew up in a fairly poor home, and so I had to work for a lot of stuff. I was like, yo, I'm 14, I can detassel, I can get a job at Taco John's, which I did do that. That was my first job. That's how I got my first cell phone.
Nice.
But it wasn't that bad. I mean, I got half off or free food all the time. And what was the worst job I ever had? Man, I don't know that I had any that I hated a ton.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously didn't like some more than others. I worked in a warehouse for a little while, but once I got the hang of it and got into leadership and drove around forklifts all the time, I kind of liked it. But initially I didn't really love it.
Sure.
Because you're in a warehouse the whole day and it's boring, the lighting is bad, and people are pretty grumpy and sad because you're just pulling around pallets of product, and it just wasn't that fun.
Mm-hmm.
But once I started driving and pulling product off trucks and all that, it was kind of fun.
Sure.
So I guess Taco John's, I guess fast food's kind of weird because it ruined the cheese for me. Yeah, because you had to make the cheese, you had to pour it. So it might ruin it for you guys too. But at Taco John's, they have delicious hot cheese that you get with your potato Lays. But I would open up this container, and it was essentially just a big can, and you'd use a big can opener, and you'd dump the cheese out into a big bowl, and the cheese would just come out in this gelatin form, and it wouldn't really fall apart until you stabbed it. And then you would have to fill the can with one whole thing of water, and you'd pour it in with it, and then you had to mix it up really good. So obviously it smelled kind of weird, and it just was chunky, but once you heated it up, it was fine.
Yeah.
So it's not it's gross, but it definitely ruined it for me for a while. And now I'm lactose intolerant. So take that, Taco John's.
Maybe it was because of the fake cheese.
Maybe. That's probably what I would say is I don't know, when you're a kid, you don't want to work, but I did like the benefits of getting a paycheck. So
yeah,
I don't know. I
actually loved my first job.
Yeah.
My first job was at Applebee's.
Oh yeah.
So on the tiers of high school jobs, you had Hy-Vee,
yeah,
which anyone can get a job at Hy-Vee, but it's a pretty decent job.
Yeah, it's a good job.
Then you have the really bad ones. I would say working at Taco Bell is probably one of the worst.
Yeah.
Yikes. Even though Taco Bell is my favorite fast food restaurant. So maybe we'll say McDonald's. Working at McDonald's would kind of suck.
Yeah.
But Applebee's was I was doing pretty good. I made $10.50 an hour on average as a high school kid, which was that was money.
Yeah, it was a lot.
And yeah, I liked fast-paced nature of it, working with people.
Yeah, he talks about Applebee's all the time. He loves Applebee's.
I worked there for almost 3 years. From the time I could get a job, I got a job immediately at Applebee's, and then I worked there till I left for college.
So then what was the job that you just
The
did?
worst, the worst job was definitely when I worked for Service Master Clean.
Oh.
I hated my sales jobs that I had too, just because I didn't like selling stuff that I didn't believe in that much.
Yeah.
But as far as the worst job, that was definitely it.
So you just went into offices and
I went into offices. I went into one huge like manufacturing plant office. It was like really old and just crappy. All the floors were like tile, but old tile like this, but like a little bit cleaner.
Yeah.
And I had to like wear this vacuum pack and then mop all the floors. But like it was after everyone had left for the night. So it was like 6 p.m. to like 10 p.m. at night. So I was literally just by myself in this massive building, and it was just like depressing. And I got dumped by my girlfriend like right before that. So I was just like really depressed, like
you're listening to
cleaning floors by
Chris
myself
Daughtry?
And listening to Chris Daughtry. And yeah,
I'm going home.
yeah, exactly.
Or coming home.
Yeah, it was a sad few months for me.
Really
yeah, that was a
sad.
really bad job. So
Yikes. Well, thank God that we don't have to work for anyone else because we started our own company.
That's right.
And speaking of this episode, we did want to talk about how to manage as you're growing your company. I think for us, we didn't really know what to expect. We never had a business before. We never had started any of this kind of things before. And so luckily together, we've figured out a lot along the way, and we want to impart some of that knowledge into you. But we are growing. Every year we've actually grown just a little bit. We haven't like 10x'd and like done all this crazy numbers yet.
until this year.
Yeah, amen. I receive that. But there's just like a natural growth that's happening. And so because of that, we've had to hire now 2 full-time employees, which is awesome.
Yep.
We contract our buddies all the time that do video and editing that we need to bring in because, you know, our capacity is growing. And so, I guess, how do you manage those thresholds? And what were some of the things, you know, when we started to grow, what was like the initial red flag of like, oh man, we need to do this or we're going to like screw this thing up?
Yeah, I think if anything, we waited too long to hire. And we were talking to a buddy and he said that's what he feels like a lot of companies do is they count the cost of the hire, but they don't think about how their business will grow immediately on the other side of that. And that's really what we've seen. And so we really, I think when we first were talking about hiring Bray, it was coming from the pain point was really that we were at capacity. We couldn't take on any more work. And we're like, we're kind of barely like making it work financially so that we can pay ourselves a salary and like have stability in our homes. Like that is barely happening. And we're like completely out of hours to put into this thing. And so that was kind of that was a pretty glaring indicator that we needed to expand our capacity in one way or another. And I think it was really, it could be extremely hard for that to be the first thing that you hire. Maybe the first hire that you make is someone to help you manage your projects, because I think it's a lot easier to train someone on that than to train someone the style that you've spent years developing and the skill that it's taken you years of on-set experience to gain. And so I think, we were blessed because we had been working with Bray for years. We had trained her from scratch on the way that we do things. And so it was a natural fit. But that probably won't be the case for most people. And so, but I guess in general, just learn like those kind of pain indicators where if you feel like you're not able to move forward just with the people that you have now, it's probably time to add someone to the team. Or at least start like thinking about who that person could be. And the best case scenario is it's somebody that you've already worked with and you already know. And that's been the story for us because we've hired both of our employees out of our church. And so we already know them. We know they align with us on goals and visions and beliefs and all of that stuff. And then not only that, they've known us for a year or more before we even made the decision to hire them.
It was kind of cool because we had the opportunity to lead them prior to hiring them. So we really got to feel on just like how are they with feedback and how are they with, taking, instruction and just all of that stuff because they've been on our teams at church for, a couple years or whatever. And so we really get to see people develop and be like, man, like they have tons of great qualities. I would love to implement that into our business. And so, they both were a God story of how like we offered jobs and they happened to either be wanting to quit their job or they lost their job in recent of us asking them. And so it just really worked out in a really cool way. And so we're excited to continue to grow. We're already, discussing and thinking about who can we hire next because we have seen, I think we broke through that awkward wall of like, oh, but if we hire somebody, that's tens of thousands of dollars that we have to be responsible for someone's household. And this is expensive. And, you know, can we do this? But after hiring Bray, it was like, dude, I want to hire 100 million people. Like, you know, because you saw the opportunities. I just know too, as you grow, for me as an owner, I know that if people are working under me, like I'm just that more driven to make sure that their families are taken care of, your family's taken care of. And so that is a huge motivating factor for me as a part owner to really just care for our employees and our people. And I'm excited to continue to grow that.
Yeah. That responsibility or that weight is definitely a real thing. Yeah. Like you're now responsible for the I mean, you're not ultimately responsible for someone's livelihood. No one is but themselves. But like you have a part to play in making sure that you're not dropping the ball, because that's going to significantly impact now multiple families, multiple people. And so it is a weight. But the one thing I would say with that is don't let that fear be what holds you back. Cause that was us until we hired Bray. Like I always would count the cost, and that I would let that fear of letting someone down prevent me from hiring, because I would rather just kill myself trying to grow this thing and grind myself into the dirt than fail someone. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like I would rather do just about anything else in the world would be less painful than having to let an employee go because you can't afford to keep them on.
Totally.
But at the same time, what I've learned through the process of now hiring 2 employees is on the other side of that is growth. Yeah. Like God will bring you more business. You will get more business the minute that you decide to hire someone to help you manage your capacity or help you grow your capacity. Yeah. It's almost like you're the limiting factor. We've been the limiting factor in our business all along. And I'm learning that more and more now that like we've been the lid. And so anytime we set a lid, we hit the lid. Mm-hmm. Well, if you don't raise the lid, you're just going to continue hitting the lid. Yep. But as soon as we've raised the lid, every single time, like our capacity grows to hit that lid.
100%.
I believe that'll happen in your business too, as you take that step of faith.
Yeah.
And so, let those kind of indicators, if you feel like you're burnout, but you don't have more time, you can't take on new clients and you feel stuck, you can't grow your business.
It's time.
Now's the time.
Yep.
Take the risk. But what I would say is if you're not as fortunate to already have a community of people that are like-minded, start growing that now. Start getting out in the community. Meet people that are aligned with you, that you could see yourself working together someday. You never know what other freelancer out there might actually end up being your employee someday.
Totally.
And so if you don't already have that, like we're so blessed to have a church community that we can really just wait for someone to kind of be highlighted to us and we kind of just feel that that's the right move. But some people aren't, they don't have that community. And so start building that now. Start reaching out to people, get with people, shoot with people, see who you like and what people you work really well with. And that way, when the time does come for you to hire, you have options. You don't have to go, put an Indeed ad out and get random people that probably aren't going to be the right hire.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities and different ways to go about finding the right people to hire. And I know we just got off a call. Somebody just reached out to us, a company that they're merging together, two guys that are sole proprietors that are like, hey, we know we can accomplish so much more together. So we're coming together. And they were just asking how our partnership works and the different challenges we face. And we were very honest and open with them. But that is absolutely right. You can achieve so much more with more than just you.
Yep.
And so once you kind of get through that, because I think it's easy to get in grind mode and Gary V mode and be like, I'm just going to get everything done myself. And I'm, the owner of my time and my business and all of that, which, is cool and everything. But it's just so much better with people, bringing people along in the journey.
It's more fun.
It's more fun. It's way less lonely. I did it. I started a business by myself and I didn't like it. It just I liked what I did and I liked the client interaction. I liked the type of work I was doing, but the time sitting in the office and doing the boring stuff by myself, it just wasn't fun. It wasn't a healthy environment. And yeah, and now we have a ton of fun. I love our office culture. I love hanging out. We laugh all the time. Before we recorded this episode, we probably had 10 minutes of laughing because we were just being goofy before shooting the podcast. But I just love that. And so, yeah, don't be afraid to go out, get plugged into a church, get on a team, a digital content or marketing team, and start shooting with people and having fun. If you don't do the church thing, like, there's tons of different creative groups all over the cities that you live in. So they have these things like styled shoots where the organization actually like hires a model or two or whatever, and then 10, 15 photographers, videographers go shoot those models, and you get to learn from each other. You get to vibe with people. And those are all over the US. Like, I mean, they're not just, I know our city.
If you're in a big enough town, like bigger than Lincoln, I mean,
right.
If your town has more than 100,000 people, you probably have some level of a photography community.
I would even say smaller. Like, I mean, they're all over. And if, okay, so you live in a really small town and you're like, I'm all alone and nobody's creative here, which I grew up in a town like that, so I get it. There's tons of like online communities that are so awesome. Like, you can join Facebook groups. There's, tons that we're a part of, and you can definitely get community through that, and a lot of opportunities to second shoot for weddings for people. Really, just all the above. And we say all that to say is just giving you some tools to get connected with community, because it's super, super important. But one of the things that we were talking about when you were thinking about maybe hiring your first employee, and something that came to mind, I think when we first started thinking about hiring somebody, we were like, man, like videographers, like for companies, like starting salaries at like 75,000, maybe 100,000 in some cases. And we don't even pay ourselves that yet, you know? And so how do we justify hiring somebody for a significant amount of the market rate, and being like a startup company, and having all of those challenges? And I would just say, like, just forget all that. Figure out what you can do. We always want to be able to pay our employees fair, but we're a baby company. We don't have insurance. Like, I'm on my wife's insurance. You're paying through the marketplace. But, that's just a part of the growth and the things and the sacrifices that you take when you do your own thing. But do we have goals to pay our people that much money? Absolutely. Do we have goals to have insurance provided for our whole company? Absolutely. But you have to take a step at a time. And what that means is figure out a fair rate that you can and for sure pay, and then always with opportunities of raises and bonuses and all of those types of things that we like to give our employees. Yeah,
and part of the conversation when we first met with Bray was just be upfront with the person that you're hiring. I remember we sat down with her and we said, hey, listen, we're obviously a pretty new company. This is really like what we can do right now, but like, we want you to know that we see you as a long-term part of this company and really helping us build the vision of Glory Visuals, because that's what you want. You want employees that are going to think that from that, this is my thing. Like, you want them to take a partial ownership of the business. They're never going to take as much as you. They never should, unless you're paying them more than you're paying yourself.
Right.
Just laying that out of like, hey, the future is somewhat uncertain. We don't have $1 million in the bank where we can promise that this salary is going to be here all year. But like, it is literally the number one priority for us to make sure that never happens, that you always are paid consistently, and that honestly, as our company grows, like, your income grows with it. And so really laying out, hey, this is the potential. This is what we see. Here's what we can do now. And it's not unfair as long, if the market rate is X dollars, it's always a case by case basis. How much experience do they have? What are they currently making? Do they have experience working in this field? And so all that factors in with that. But
some of that, like, and not to get in all the weeds of just like the marketplace and what it would be like to work for, a company and being their sole video person. I don't know that would be super life-giving, like shooting only interviews and, videos of super boring office corporate type gigs. Like, maybe that's for you, maybe it's not. But for us, like, we have our profile of what we shoot it goes all over the place. It's very fun. It's very sporadic. There's different types of things. And now we're all finding our own passions of like what we like to shoot, what we don't like to shoot. And we get to decide if we want to do that. And so there's a lot of really great benefits that comes with working in an environment like this, because you really get to choose like what you want to do.
Yeah, I think that's opened, like hiring Carrie has really opened you and I up to now work more in our passion zones. Like the fact that we could take a full day this week, set this office up, install foam. Like
we even learned
can do
how
this
to
podcast for 4 hours.
The trim
like
from John Cena.
Yeah, we learned from John Cena, taught us how to do the trim ourselves. But like that wouldn't have even been possible if I was worrying about our clients getting taken care of. Are we getting back to clients? Are we sending links to clients? I would have had to been thinking of all of those things 3 weeks ago. And now I can trust that, okay, everything's taken care of. So you and I can do what really we're the only ones that can build the studio out the way that we see it and envision it. So we need to block out time to do that. And we can't do that if we're worried about every little email that comes in. Setting up every single meeting manually with clients, like all of that stuff. Yeah, having someone taking care of the day-to-day emails, appointment scheduling, making sure clients are getting taken care of has really helped us to just really be able to more manage. Which is funny because I like hate that word so much. I never wanted to be a manager.
Right.
But I think it's a good balance because we're still in it. We're still shooting every project. We're still editing a lot of the projects that go out. So we're still in the grind with our employees, but we're able to actually step back a little bit and think about, okay, what do we need to be doing? What new rhythms do we need to implement? So we'll just kind of walk you through like some of the implementation that's happened since hiring Carrie. There really wasn't a lot that happened when we hired Bray because she was just an extension of our editing arm, essentially. We did, have her start managing the dumping of footage, making sure that the drives are backed up. And then if we need to edit a project, we take it and pull it onto our edit drive. But when we brought Carrie on, really it caused a shift where feel like there is a difference between 2 people then to 3 people was a huge jump, but 3 people to 4 people almost felt like a bigger difference because now like it's a team. It's not just us and an editor that we contract out work to. It's like, no, okay, we're like, this is an actual organization now that we're starting to kind of form branches and, all of that stuff. And so there are rhythms that need to happen to make sure that we're all syncing on, all on the same page. We're all working on the right stuff. And so a couple things that we've done, and a lot of this is derived from how we've operated our creative team at church, which I think is really great. So some of the things that we've implemented since hiring an assistant is really a daily stand-up. So weekly, Monday mornings, we have a little bit more in depth. We go over how did social do? What did our, what are our analytics? Are we getting new clients? Are we, getting a lot of leads? What does that look like? And then what projects do we need to work on this week? So we use a program called Rike for our project management, which I tied into Dubsado this week. So now whenever, a contract is signed in Dubsado, it creates a project in Rike that we can then tie due dates to and assignees to and all of that stuff. So Monday morning, we open up Rike. What do we have to do for this week? And really just to divvy that up amongst ourselves based on who's better at what kind of project. Who has more time this week? Do we have a lot of wedding films to edit or is it mostly commercial? What does that look like? So Monday morning, we kind of do that. We set all of our projects for the week, what we're working on. And then we just do a daily stand-up, 15 minutes every day. We read a devotional together. We do just like a catch-up. Hey, where are we at on projects? What are updates? Is there anything that's blocking us that we need to reach out to the client and figure out right away? Really just keeping projects moving forward. And we do that. We derive that from church. We do a message stand-up every morning. And it's really simple. It's what did you work on yesterday? What are you planning on working on today? And what are you blocked on? So is there something that's in the way from you getting something done? Do you need a logo? Do you need a font from a client? All of those things. Okay, so Carrie knows I need to go reach out to the client and get a font because Bray's blocked on that for this video.
It's so awesome. I love it. And it's fun. Like our meetings now, before we'd kind of roll into the office at 8, and we always tried to do our John Maxwell leadership devotional, which is super awesome. It gets us thinking. It's good team building. It's good culture. It's always made for great conversation in the morning. And then it just, it led into now this like family, like you said. It's not just me, you, and Bray, but it's now 4 of us together, 4 minds in the room, and just we get synced, and it's been super awesome. Like it's only been I don't even know, like a month? Not even a month.
No, it's been
a few weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
If that even?
Yeah, it's only been like
a few weeks.
Yeah, really. A few weeks or whatever.
Not even a month yet, but.
And it's been just super awesome having a new rhythm and coming in at 8 and just having that stand up, having that time together, getting the direction, and then splitting up and working on what we need to work on. And it's been super, super helpful.
But there are still a lot of areas that we're learning in. Yeah. And honestly, I think you can't really learn until you do it, is what I've learned from doing it.
Totally.
Like I've learned more, I think, in the last few weeks and really in the last year.
Yep.
I learned a lot more that year than before that when it was just us. And I feel like I've learned more in the last few weeks than I have in a really long time.
Yeah.
And it's just been really fun to learn how to grow a team, how to grow a family, how to, continue to add people to the team, have things for them to do, have everyone's roles kind of fit together complementarily. But there's a lot of things that we still don't know. We're still learning every single day. And we still have to rely on, we'll always have to, but we rely on God for wisdom when we don't know what to do, when we don't.
Absolutely. There's a lot of times. We've read leadership books. We have people we follow on social media that are super inspirational. And I think you just, chew the meat and spit out the bones with some of that stuff. But, we are leaders, and we are called to be leaders in our business, in our household, to our wives and our families. And sometimes we don't know all the answers for how to lead properly. But, thank God, there is a God that we can lean on for godly wisdom to get us through some of those times. And so a lot of times when Austin and I come up against something like, hey, we really need to be praying about this, and we go to our wives, we get good Christian counsel from our amazing wives. Thank God for our wives, because they're way more amazing than us and help us lead through some stuff, honestly, because just to be completely honest, I hadn't been led my whole life. My dad left when I was 5, and I still see him, but that's a whole different story for another day. But he's not much of a leader at all, and hadn't been in my life. And so I guess just growing up, like leadership looked like me just doing everything that I could to help my sisters, help my mom, and really just take on whatever responsibility I could. But leading people properly, leading them well, really just has developed over being a part of the local church. And you and I have led for years together, leading the marketing teams. Now I'm leading on the worship team, which is just different. And really just learning how to love people, serve people, lead people in just all spheres of life, at church, at our business, and being a better husband, trying to be a better husband all the time. It's a lot, but thank God that we can rely on God for wisdom because we're going to come up to a point where we don't know what to do. Yep. And so thank God that we can pray, that we can consult our friends that are loving, that care about us. And and we have our church community that has always been super helpful and there to help us lead through crazy times.
Yeah, it's comforting to know that even in our lack, that we can trust in someone who has it all and really like has set a path for us. And so we know that as long as we're being obedient to that, like we can't fail. We're not going to fail. He's going to provide for us, for our employees, like as long as we keep that as the forefront of our mind. And I think that really wraps up this podcast. I would just love to pray for you guys.
Let's go.
And let's do it.
Let's do it.
Hey, God, thank you so much for each and every person listening to this episode. I pray that you would just remove any fear if there's people that are listening to this that are ready to grow, ready to scale, ready to add another person, or find that person that's going to help take their business to the next level. We pray that you would remove any fear. God, that as people do step out and make decisions of faith, and hiring people, God, that you would immediately give them work, bring them clients, better clients, bigger clients, that they can fill their capacity and continue to grow and scale. Thank you for all that you're going to do this year in 2022. We believe that it's going to be the best year yet for us and for every single person listening. Truly to believe that. So we thank you that it's a new year, that 2021's over, and that we get to start fresh and move forward in a new year. Pray for your protection and your provision in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. As always, we love you guys so much. Be sure to hit the bell for notifications if you're watching this on YouTube, so you're notified every single time that we drop content. We're dropping content all the time. We're dropping a podcast every week, and there's always special stuff coming in during the week. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you consume this content, please leave a rating. We love reading the ratings. They really help us out. And if you want, you can tag us and share this with all your friends on social media, and we will repost that post because the algorithms like that stuff. So let's grow all of our platforms together and be a big, happy family. Well, guys, that's all we have. We love you guys so much. We'll see you in the next episode.
Peace.